Alright, tone 3. I believe we did everything up until the Aposticha Theotokion. Right. Rather than starting directly at the Aposticha Theotokion, let's do maybe Aposticha number 1.
Number 1?
So Aposticha number 1, yeah. And then that'll get us back in the mood. And then
if you are going to do the Vesper, do you think it's better that one or two of us learn the E song? Would it be nice?
Yvonne can do that.
Oh.
My intention is to get him to do it.
Oh.
If there's like the 4 of us singing.
Oh, you have somebody who can do
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, and sometimes he prefers to do that anyway, just because if he's not used to reading the notation in recent times, then it's kind of like too much to. It's not Vespers then. It's freak out. So.
You don't want Yvonne freaking out.
Yeah, so we can definitely get him to do it. I'll ask him to make sure.
Wait, this is slow Aposticha.
Mm-hmm.
Slow Aposticha.
Slow Aposticha, 3rd tone, number 1.
Starting with 1.
Yep. So let's sing the scale and then we'll get going. So ni pauga di kesoni ni zoke di galupani. All right. What's our pipima? The intonation for this one? Anyone? Na na.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or na na. We'll bring it up a little bit. Na na. Oh Christ, who by thy passion didst darken the sun, and who by the light of thy resurrection didst make all things radiant with joy, except our evening hymn, O friend of man. All right, how's that?
Not bad.
Should we sing it one more time and then just to make sure that we're back into it before we get into the Theotokion? And the one thing, if you notice on I think we discussed it once, but on O Friend of Man, it has something like that.
Yeah.
So that's where if you're ascending, you go vertical. If you're descending, you read top down. So like if it were this, you read up. If it's this way, descending, you go down. So this is kind of a compressed notation. It's not really confusing, but it's just a little weird. If anyone noticed that. All right.
It looks like a gorgo if you're half blind.
Yeah.
See, if you're fuzzy.
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Na na. O Christ, who by thy passion didst darken the sun, and who by the light of thy resurrection that's a good speed. I wouldn't really sing that any faster. All right. The Aposticha Theotokion.
We're doing verse 2?
No, we're gonna skip all the way down.
Because we did all the Apostichas already.
Oh.
That was just to remind us.
Didn't mark them
The
up.
warm up. The warm up.
Yeah, the vocal leads.
Beyond this. Uh-oh. Third
You're
one.
gone too far. Back. There we go. I think it's this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Just make sure that you have the page turn.
Right. Yeah, it's on the back.
Yep. All right. Anyone wanna look at it ahead of time?
Of course.
Now the question is, what note do you start on?
Zo. Flat.
Nice.
Oh, it's on its,
I agree.
it says it. You hear
I'm used to
you hear
sing that
more?
now.
Oh, because we're seeing the flat right there.
Yeah. So it starts off in
It has
harmonic.
the okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because the first thing it says ga, but then if you look on the top right, it has a pa there,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's your actual starting note. Because the assumption is the glory is gonna end on pa, so they write it from pa. But the tone is based on ga, so they wouldn't introduce the tone by ga, or they wouldn't introduce the tone by pa. They would introduce it only by ga.
What?
You see how it says ikos ga.
I see that.
So the tone is based on ga.
Okay.
So they would when introducing the tone, you would only say ga, because it doesn't make any sense to say anything else. But the hymn doesn't really start on
You're
ga.
not actually starting on that note.
So that's why they have to put the pa there,
That makes sense.
with the assumption that a glory is
So I'm
gonna.
saying it's in this key, but you're actually
end up
starting
on-
this note.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're giving you your starting note essentially.
Mhm.
So. Nothing much.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything so far.
Yeah. It's not so difficult. Well, it's not so complicated.
Right.
It's not difficult.
No, it's not.
So.
I've seen worse.
Except the way it ends, or maybe it's a familiar ending, we just didn't read it right.
Oh yes,
The
look
three
at that
gorgon.
little.
What's the D?
Digo-
It's a three.
di-
Digorgon.
Digorgon.
Okay,
Yeah, we've done it before.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it looks, it's familiar, but it looks weird.
Yeah, the parols. And how many beats is that last note?
Well, you did it 3. Oh, couldn't have. Well, you did. 3.
What did I do?
Didn't you do da da da? 3 beats.
I just sang
Oh, you
something.
just sang it that way.
I'm just
Okay.
asking you how many beats is it?
The last note.
The last note. Technically.
Technically, it should be just a
Just
third.
one. Oh, wow, I
Just
see
a
what.
third,
Third of
A
it.
third?
because the Digorgon takes 2/3 from the notes previous.
It's an argon. It's facing the opposite way.
So
Oh.
it's adding. It's
Oh.
adding
It's-
to
so
the
it is.
notes.
So,
It's adding to.
Oh, it's
and it's not an argon. It's a different.
Oh, it's an article.
Diargon.
Yeah, the
Diargon.
diargon. Yeah, there's the
Oh, right,
argon,
you're right.
3 mi-argon, and the diargon.
Acts as if it were a
Diargon.
gorgon and a triply.
So we
Triply,
adding 2
yeah.
notes?
Yes.
So it's triply.
So it is 3.
Mhm.
No?
So it's
4.
4.
Four.
The beat with the 3 underneath.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of a long note. I don't know why they would do that, but.
Like the little.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Maintain your interest during the 4 beats.
Yeah.
So Aragon stretches it.
Okay,
how
yeah,
much?
you're right.
By 1.
Yeah. What?
The Aragon, 1 Aragon, you have Diargon. So that stretches it how much? By
This one
I
is
thought it was
An
three
argon.
three beats. The argon is makes it
plus
2
the
beats.
note,
2 beats.
plus the
Plasma.
note, plus the 2 that the Aragon stretches it
No.
to.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
am
the
I
argon
mistaken?
is just as plasma. It's the
Mhm.
Emolion that gives
Yep.
it a gorgon and the deeply.
Yep.
And then the diagon is the gorgon and the triply.
Yeah.
Triply.
Yeah. So the argon is 2 beats. The 3 mi-argon is the 3 beats, and the diargon is 4 beats. So it doesn't really matter there because however we'll just hold it
Yeah.
for however long you feel
Okay.
comfortable.
Until you tell
We're
us to.
done.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just hold my hand out. No. You know, until we start turning colors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Alright.
the chanter stand is turning red.
Yeah. Okay. Seedlessly and of the divine spirit, beginning of the hymn. Na na. What's our first note? No. I agree. Okay. 1, 2, 1. It's only one beat. That was my mistake. Yeah, I was very impressed with the sharp that was in there.
Yeah, I was proud of us too.
Tremendously.
Same here. It was like, whoa, how did that happen?
Tremendously impressed there. Oh, the second page, fourth from the without Father. That from the without Father, which is not, we haven't seen that before.
No.
And you guys all did it wonderfully. With the Gorgon there, it was as if you had done this all your life.
I'd like to thank my teacher, who's been so patient with me and has never yelled at me once.
All right. So that was good. It was probably a lot just to do all at once. I don't know if you felt like, was it okay or was it too much?
I mean,
No, it's not fine.
you know, it's like sight reading, you're gonna miss some stuff, but it
Yeah.
wasn't, it's not extremely tricky.
Yeah.
I mean,
And there's
most
repetition.
rhythms and things, and like, you're seeing a lot of the
Yeah.
same patterns.
Chris
It's
is
nothing like
comments on feasting.
Oh, there you go.
accidentals
Like
and
Satan
like,
is wont to lie in wait at feast and deploy his allies, drunkenness, gluttony, immoderate laughter, and an active mind.
Yes.
Guilty of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guilty of all.
No, they have some
But
wonderful quotes in
that
here.
kind of surprised me that it went all the way down to need.
Oh,
that
yes.
phrase there, because that's like, usually it's like doing that when you're like going down to hell or something.
Yeah.
That's an odd phrase to like take it down.
I'm wondering if it's because of like an incarnational thing.
Maybe.
And thou hast suckled him as a babe.
Just to bring you down to earth.
Yeah, because it's like and thou hast brought forth in the flesh him who for our sakes came forth from thee without father. You know, it's kind of like this lofty thing, and thou hast like, and you've taken the incarnate God and suckled him as a babe. You know, it's like and done everything that you would to a regular child, because he is a regular child. So yeah, so maybe that's why. So, but yeah, it's but we, again, I guess we've seen that before when we said these, yeah. So,
Okay.
all right, with the words.
Yep.
All right. Na na. Ceaselessly and of the divine Spirit, and by the will of the Father, didst thou conceive the Son of God, who from the Father existed before the ages without mother, and thou hast brought forth in the flesh him who for our sakes came forth from thee without father, and thou hast suckled him as a babe. Wherefore cease not to intercede, that our souls be delivered from perils. Cool. Any questions or?
I think so.
I think the only thing that seemed a little tricky was on the second page, top of the second page, first line.
Yeah, it came forth.
Forth from the kind of, you hit it and then you hit it again. The forth from. So, I think that was the only really complicated thing. Or tricky. Anything else?
No.
Shall we sing it one more time,
Okay.
Pastor?
Sure.
Let's do do you have a glory nearby?
Glory nearby, man. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere. I had to find it on my computer myself.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, there's on
We
122.
have like several in fact.
Yeah,
Maybe
which
I'll
one?
do
I will
myself.
leave it up to you guys.
No, I'll think
Or
the,
there's
the
123.
easy one.
The first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that 123? That's on the page number.
Oh, that's 121.
121.
It's the
121?
easy one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I opt for.
I'll go with that. Let's do the glory both now, and then finish with the Aposticha Theotokion
Okay.
to round out our third tune. All right. Na na. Glory to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen. Seedlessly and of the divine Spirit, and by the will of the Father, didst thou conceive the Son of God, who from the Father existed before the ages without mother, and thou hast brought forth in the flesh him who for our sakes came forth from thee without Oh, fourth?
Yeah, came forth.
Okay, you wanna do that? Right
Yeah.
Our sakes. Our sakes came forth from thee without father.
Alright, that was, yeah.
That work?
Well, I got it that time anyway.
Okay. Alright, and thus ends the manful, warful tone 3. The warring tone 3. It's a very, what is it? Wait, what is it when you're not marching, but it's kind of like
Martial.
Marshall.
Yeah, martial.
Martial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright. So, any questions on tone 3 before we leave it for the time being?
Not gonna do the Aposticha and the resurrection?
No, we'll leave them because they're kind of a different. I'd rather do all the Aposticha together and talk about them.
Oh, okay.
Because they're kind of a different beast.
It's an animal.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's no slow and fat. I mean, that seems to be like that's just the version.
Yeah, the Aposticha is a certain
They have
type.
like their
Yeah.
own melodies.
Yeah, and sometimes the tone is not exactly the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Tone 3 happens to be pretty much the same, but
Uh-huh.
tone 4, tone 2, tone 1 kind of. Alright. So you all have slow tone 4
Okay.
for the mode. Alright. Let me speak briefly about it.
Let's keep it going for.
Yes. Okay, tone 4. So we saw the brief tone 4
Mhm.
before. So brief. Okay, so brief starts on whoop, right? And then it goes up to V, you know. And then it kind of goes between V and V. Every so often it goes down to Pa. And this is the brief one. And then pretty much whenever you hit some sort of, tentative ending where you could end the hymn if you wanted to, it's on Vu. Whenever you hit some sort of final ending at the end of the hymn, it's on Vu. Every so often you hit Pa for various reasons, but it doesn't sit there very long. It just kind of goes na negaton da 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 da, and then it goes right back up.
Mhm.
It just hits it and doesn't do very much. Now we hit slow tone 4. So slow tone 4 is a little bit different. It's based upon pretty much the same notes. We got Pa, we got Vu, we got V.
Mhm.
And it has the same, we saw before this symbol. This is in this one as well as in slow. And we'll see that, we'll talk about that more when we hit it. It's just a scale change to the Zygos scale. So, we'll ignore that for the moment. But slow tone 4 starts on Pa. And then it normally goes up to V. And then if it goes, and then it normally, in the midst of a hymn, it kind of oscillates between these three. And whenever there's a tentative ending or a perfect ending, it's on Vu. At least it normally is. So tentative or perfect. And if it's imperfect, it's either Pa or Thee. So, and everyone remembers imperfect and perfect and how.
I missed that class, I think.
Okay, so so beginning is on Pa, ending is a perfect ending, which just means that it's the fullness of the hymn is done.
Okay.
Tentative means it's a period, you've completed a thought, you could end there if you wanted to, but it's not the full hymn. Imperfect is in the midst of a sentence, at a comma, at a semicolon.
Okay.
Somehow the thought is not finished. Somehow it's like, O thou who put us on light as like a garment. It's an imperfect ending because you can't end there.
Mhm.
But if I said, if I somehow finish that sentence, it would then be tentative, but it's not the actual end, which is the perfect part.
Okay.
There are exceptions to this rule. I would say, most of the time it should end on Vu. There are a lot of the Matins hymns, for some reason, that end on Pa. I haven't really figured it out. I don't know why. But in general, I think most of these, I'll have to look, but most of these they all start on Pa. They kind of go between D and Pa, and then whenever there's a tentative ending or the end of the hymn, it should be on Vu. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to. Da, 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 da.
Yep. And this one will go dun 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 Da 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 dum 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 dum. And this one, the the intonation. You could do legatos, but legatos ends on what note?
What's vu?
It ends on vu. Yeah. So if I go legatos, that's vu, which is not the note that we start on. So then you have to go. Okay, now this is pa, and then I go up three. I go up 2 or 3 notes from there. You know, so it gets kind of icky because if you go legatos, which is what everyone knows, then you're like, oh, I jump up 3 notes. Wait a minute, that's not really an up 3 notes because it's up 3 notes from pa, so up 2 notes from where I am. So the actual thing, sometimes you hear people go anane, same as tone 1, which can get a little confusing, but they're both based on pa. So that's one thing. Or you hear aya, aya, aya. And that's just holy. And that's just on pa. Just aya.
It's the same as the tone 1 is just using a different word. Right?
Mm-hmm. No.
No.
Ananes, ni papa. This one's just pa papa.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
Ni papa is 1.
Let me bring this up real quick just to make sure I got the right word. Legatos. And then let's see. Aya. Oh, it's aya. Yeah, I had it right first. And then there's that really long one. The aya. I won't do that one in church. So yeah, it's like we're gonna start tone 4, and I'm gonna start on the lodi. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it makes sense somewhere for someone. So if we look at our piece of music, it says 4th mode, Lord I've cried. Starts on pa. You have the diatonic symbol for pa above the pa, which just tells you again we're in the diatonic scale. Pretty much everything we've been doing is diatonic, hinting towards enharmonic, but everything's been diatonic. Again, this is completely diatonic.
Okay.
If you notice, you'll see that it, as we chant through it, it'll hit vu and the, and then our martiria on the second line is pa, which makes sense. We have another martiria on the second page, the, and then again pa, and then our hymn ends on vu. And then let my prayer arise, be set forth as incense. It starts on vu because it follows the previous hymn. So it's not its own hymn by itself, it always is feeding off of the previous ending of the hymn. And so then that one ends up starting on vu. And then again pa, martiria, the, and then the hymn ends on vu. So, and then we'll skip ahead. All right. Any questions before we read through? All right. So let's do it on the note names at least once, just to get into it a little bit. So, says pa gadi, viga If you notice, there's some similar things, but it's not on the same note. It's not the same melodies that you know, which tells you this is not tone 3, this is not tone 1. This, this is now tone 4. So it's got its own little melodies, it's got its own little phrases, and if you notice, you'll get very used to the gavu pani gavu di gavu bavu ba pa. That'll come back over and over. So that ni to ga, it'll get second nature. And we'll take it a little slower from there. So we're on pa, ga, vu, ga, di, ke, di, ga, vu, ga, di, ga, Alright. How was that?
Yeah.
It's a little unsettling at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that is.
It just
And that's perfect, huh?
That's perfect. Yes.
Mm.
That's the perfect ending. The I'll bring up the picture a little bit in a second. The end of the first page, Lord, I have cried unto thee. Then you have hearken unto me. Same way Tony kind of did things. The Zonizo. Different Zos.
It broke that very awkward
Yeah.
spot.
Well, eventually you won't even need to look at that.
You'll just know that that's coming.
Yeah. Although what I realized, I think at least in the actual music, the way that I printed it out is not the way that it is here. These pages should be facing each other.
Oh.
So.
So okay, yeah.
Yeah. So then I guess it's a little bit more helpful because
Sure.
they're facing each other. But even then, is there other people out there?
If a
I'm
Zoe
hearing
is,
noises,
Peer
but
depression
I
or
hear
I thought they were meeting.
I don't know if they're meeting tonight.
some people want to. If a Zoe is descending, isn't it usually flat?
Hmm.
So I mean, as a rule, just as you're going down on a Zoe,
Yep.
you flatten it.
Nizo,
So you don't have to think
nizo,
about it.
nizo, nizo.
Okay.
Yeah. Zo, kevi, kevi, pi.
Yeah, that's peer depression,
Okay. Yeah.
depressed peers or something like that.
Depression.
Yes, meet the Prussians.
Need
You just sing the tone for and do you like it?
Don't make any mistakes.
So one of these days we'll do some musical therapy and
Yes.
when we're good now, maybe. Right now it might be depressing.
Yes.
It's like, they don't know tune for you.
Oh, it's so
We're just learning.
depressing.
We're learning. Any questions before we go on and let my prayer?
No.
All right. That's my prayer.
Are we gonna do the words or are we just doing the,
We'll do the note names first, and then we'll go back and do
Oh.
everything with the words.
Great, sure.
okay.
But then we start on Vu.
So then you could go later, Tos.
Well, this
Oh,
is
you
the
wouldn't want to.
same hymn, essentially. It just connects one to the
Right.
other.
You just go. You're in the Anbu, so.
Mm-hmm. So Vu, Vu, Diga, Vu, Ga, Di, Di, Ke, Ke, Di, Di, Vu, Ga, Ga, Vu, Vu, Ga, Di, Ke, Di, Ga, Ga, Di, Ga, Vu, Pa, Vu, Pa, Pa. Vu, Ke, Ga, Di, Di, Ke, Zo, Ni, Zo, Ni, Zo, Ke, Di, Ke, Di, 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 Ke, Ni, Zo, Ke, Di, Ga, Vu, Vu, Ga, Di, Di, Ga, 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 Vu, Pa, Vu, Ni, Pa, Vu, Pa, Vu, Ga, Di, Ke, Di, Ga,
gavu. Let's do that again.
That was
Yeah.
really hard.
Yes.
The ending is.
I don't know why that was hard. It doesn't look hard, but it was hard.
There's a lot of stuff will happen all at once.
It happens really quickly.
Like-
You gonna take a look at it real quick?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Yep. And then we'll go over it.
Yeah, hearken. Like, that's just all.
Yep. Yeah, it just keeps going. So.
Now, does the omalon there in the hark part, does that make a difference in how you sing it?
Yep.
So that's probably what
Or
threw
it
us off.
should anyway.
Well,
Oh,
so,
that's probably what threw me off.
I'm not used to seeing that gargone like on,
Now, how would you
on the
sing
second
it?
note or something tied together like that. I don't think I've seen that before.
So-
it caught me by surprise.
so if I were to do, I'll start at
I was
sacrifice.
expecting.
So I'll start at sacrifice.
Okay.
So sacrifice, hearken unto me, O Lord. So the hearken, because it's but then you hit an E-sun again, so then you would reflutter because you have to re-articulate the E-sun. Yeah, you reflutter. Yeah.
Wow.
And so
That's
hearken.
I can see what you're doing. It's just a little tricky.
Kind of a Tarzan thing. Hearken. Which is just ga 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 vu. Alright, the ga 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 vu ba vu ni. So it's just you're fluttering. Hearken. Instead of saying the, you're just fluttering to re-articulate the or ga. So, shall we sing that as an evening sacrifice? Hearken unto me, O Lord.
Sorry? What?
As an evening sacrifice, hearken unto me, O Lord. Right at the end.
Oh, yeah, okay.
With the note names or with words?
I don't know how we were doing it first.
We're doing note
We're
names.
just doing
We
note
should
names.
stick with notes.
Yeah.
We'll stick with notes then for the moment, and then we'll sing it in a minute.
So we're
So
on.
Viken is orke vi gavu ga vi ga ga gavu pavu ni pavu pavu ga Viken vi ga gavu. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyone need it? Is that okay? Alright. Let's go. Lord, I have pride. Lord, I have cried.
Ooh, we are so off.
Yes.
Oh.
So that's the problem with the
How did we
yeah.
not-
Which is why a lot of people do legetos, Lord, I have cried. Which technically it is legetos, so it's a little bit lower. But it's not. It's not. Vupani. It's not that. So that's also where the none is sometimes given, because then you think, okay, we're in tone 1, and then Lord, I have cried on, and then you realize it's not tone 1. So we'll play around with it. We'll get it though. Yeah. Lord, I have cried unto thee. Hearken unto me. Hearken unto me. O Lord, Lord. let my prayer be set forth as incense before thee. The lifting up of my hands as an evening sacrifice, hearken unto me, O Lord. Too fast? Okay? Was that?
No, not too fast, but just some things that you
Well,
can
just the
look
knee, when you're
Yeah.
reaching for the knees, it's unusual.
Mm.
We haven't been doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's,
There's a lot of new phrases here.
let's get to the knees.
And
There's
so,
some flatting going on that I'm not catching.
Yeah.
Like in hearken.
yeah, exactly. The hearken, sorry, hearken unto me. And so just playing around with that zo.
Which is kind of cool that the way they, with that hearken, it's just really cool, but not getting it.
In time.
In time. Gotta run in
No,
time.
I think that all those phrases you'll eventually just like you'll eat them up because then they're things that they are used over and over again. It's not repetitive, but it's recognizable, so that you'll be like, I love this phrase,
Oh,
you
yes.
know.
All right. Yes.
We get to go up to the knee again, you know,
Yes.
and play around with the zo.
Mhm.
So, any questions?
Guess not.
What I'd like to do is to just go on with the psalm verses, and then next week we'll re-sing those at a little bit faster, and then we'll move on to the actual stichira. So the verses of the psalm that I'll watch before my mouth. You should have those in the next pages. Okay, so these are again brief, quick, from vous, ends on vous. Doesn't really do terribly much. Little rhythms here and there. I'm gonna try. We're not gonna sing them with note names. We'll sing them with the words straight up. Sing them at a fast clip. Not tremendously fast, but maybe at church speed, maybe slightly slower.
Alright.
Would you? I don't know. Is there a preference for slightly slower?
Slightly slower, yeah.
Okay.
Church
Yeah.
is usually pretty fast.
Yeah, because the way that I was singing these is, set, O Lord, a watch before my mouth, and a door of enclosure round about my lips. Incline up, which that again, it depends on the choir, it depends on the acoustics. Our church, I think you could get away with a very fast thing. I've sung them much faster depending upon, set, O Lord, a watch before my mouth.
Well, one guy doing it can do that.
Yeah.
Two people that know it well can do
Yeah.
it. Three people, a couple of them are maybe start reading it.
Yeah.
Not so good.
Like Saturday, that's what Anna did to me. She went through this really fast, and then she'd wait for me, and I'd be like, in time, my heart.
You're right.
And then
right.
she'd go off again, and I'd be like, and I was like, oh, it sounded so awful.
Two-speed song.
It was
Right, so you
two-speed.
can't get more than two to sing it at the right. We do it,
You
St.
can,
Nicholas,
but-
we do as nominee chant, we do one for vigil, and only two of us can sing it,
Yeah.
and the rest have to do Eson, it's as nominee. But it's
Mhm.
like this, because if you get 3 or 4 people and it gets jumbled, it's
If
really
they
hard
don't know what
It
they're
needs to go
doing.
very fast.
Yeah.
Well, not,
You-
but boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it needs
Fast, or
to
they haven't
proceed.
practiced
Yeah.
singing together, being on
Yeah.
the same speed, yeah.
So 2 at maximum have to do, or 1 better even.
I mean, one is nice too, but I've even Zomany I've heard with lots like a
Oh, I'm sure if they all train to do it right.
well yeah, and if they know it by memory essentially,
Mhm.
it's like nothing, because there's no you're not waiting to catch up with the other person. It's just kind of like you're singing this yourself.
Okay, so a little bit slower.
Yep. So maybe 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay.
Set, O Lord, a watch before my mouth, and the door of enclosure round about my lips. Incline not my heart unto words of evil, to make excuse with excuse. abuses and sins, with men that work iniquity, and I will not join with their chosen. The righteous man will chasten me with mercy and reprove me. As for the oil of the sinner, let it not anoint my head. For yet more is my prayer in the presence of their pleasures, swallowed up near by the rock have their judges been. They shall hear my words, for they be sweetened, as a clod of earth is broken upon the earth, so have their bones been scattered nigh unto Hades. For unto thee, O Lord, are mine eyes, in thee have I hoped. Take not my soul away. Keep me from the snare which they have laid for me, and from the stumbling blocks of them that work iniquity. The sinner shall fall into their own net. I am alone. No. Oh, net, I am alone until I pass by. With my voice unto the Lord have I cried. With my voice unto the Lord have I made my supplication. I will pour out before him my supplication. Mine affliction before him will I declare. When my spirit was fainting within me, then thou knewest my paths. In this way wherein I have walked, they hid for me a snare. I looked upon my right hand and beheld, and there was none that did know me. Light had failed me, and there is none that watcheth out for my soul. I have cried unto thee, O Lord. I said, Thou art my hope, my portion, art thou in the land of the living. Attend unto my supplication, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from them that persecute me, for they are stronger than I. Real quick, that's a weird interval for the 18. The Zigavo and Rio brought very low. Kezozo ke Zigavo gadi kezozi. So, vo. Deliver me from them that persecute me, for they are stronger than I. If I were writing, I might put it the deliver me, but he wrote K. Let's go 19, 20, 21, 22. Next page. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may confess thy name. The righteous shall wait patiently for me until thou shalt reward me. Out of the depths have I cried unto thee, O Lord, hear my voice. Let thine ears be attentive to the voice of my supplication. If thou, O Lord, shouldest mark iniquities, O Lord, who shall stand? For with thee there is
Now, when did you ever
no.
sing those? Because you do this thing here on those same.
Weekdays.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You
Weekdays.
said that. That's right. You
Yep.
just don't do it on Saturday, which is
No.
why I guess I never heard.
Yeah, so we never hear them.
Yeah.
Except on every other day of the week except for Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Saturday is the only special day. Unless you have a weird thing where you have a feast of the
So
Master.
remind me, what happens when you not do the Stichira then?
It's all weekday things. Weekday and saint stuff. So there's a week, all these Sekira here for the resurrection are part of the Book of Eight Tones. And that one has things for Sunday evening, Monday evening, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, all throughout. And also Saturday evening. Saturday evening is what we have here.
Okay.
But Sunday evening is different, Monday evening is different, Tuesday evening is different, all that is different. But here we have 7 verses. All the rest of the days there's 3.
There's 3.
Actually there's 6, but you only sing the 3 unless you don't have other books. And technically back in the day there were only 3 to begin with, and then Patriarch Anatolius added 4 more. So everything had 3, because it was St. John of Damascus that wrote the Octoicos, if I recall. And so he wrote 3 for everything. And then...
Okay, so I guess the idea is on the days when you only got 3...
You have 3.
You just finished, because you got an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Yeah, so you do 3 for the day, 3 for the saint, and then Glory Both Now for the saint.
Okay.
So, and that gives you 6, which is 6 plus 4 is
So what
10.
they got here is like a full set of psalm verses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
It's just that on Saturday you stop after the 18th one.
Yep, and then you do them slow. Whereas on the other ones you'd stop after the 22nd, and then you'd go slow.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. And I'm done.
All right.
So.
Oh, I see, it's written down here too. On Saturdays, continue with slow.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Oh, okay. You can't get lost.
If you have time to.
No, you
Absolutely
not,
can.
not according to the writer.
If you have time to
I
read.
know I couldn't.
Yeah.
If there's time.